This week on What to Watch, two guys not named Captain America walk into a streaming show.
Think about it.
Plus, demands to release the Snyder Cut have finally been answered. Meanwhile, the Kraken is sadly waiting by his phone.
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
And Superstore is going out of business, but comedian Lilly Singh promises me things are gonna be okay.
TV shows end, but TV bosses are forever.
Keeping it non-fungible since 2020, it's time for What to Watch. Hello everyone and welcome to Entertainment Weekly's What to Watch, the show where EW staff help you solve your viewing dilemmas. I'm your host Gerrad Hall, and be wearing the Ides of March with me are critic Darren Franich, digital news writer Nick Romano, and senior writer Samantha Highfill. Watch your backs everyone. How are you?
Doing well, especially after that introduction.
I'm now paranoid a little bit, but it's fine.
Well, guys, it is a surprise to no one. Disney Plus isn't wasting any time. Just 2 weeks after the WandaVision finale left everyone except Darren reeling, the streaming service is now debuting the newest TV installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But wouldn't that make it the Marvel TV universe? Anyway, I digress. The 6-episode series stars Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson/Falcon and Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes/Winter Soldier. The final trailer was released earlier this week and promises lots of action, literal fireworks, and some good old-fashioned shield frisbee. Who doesn't love that? Nick, reviews for the first episode seem promising. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad I wasn't the first one to bring up Darren's review of WandaVision. I wasn't going to do it, but... But yeah, I mean, once upon a time, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was going to be the first Marvel Studios Disney Plus show out the gate. So it was, I don't know if I would say pressure, but I mean, it was definitely developed around the same time as WandaVision. I think it'll certainly be interesting to see how audiences take to it. And especially 100% of Darren's out there will take to it. But WandaVision, was sort of the biggest departure that we've seen from the Marvel movie template that we've come to know. And I mean, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier has literally been described multiple times as sort of a 6-hour movie, just kind of broken up into 6 episodes. So
this is not selling me on it, by the way, Nick. In case you were trying to convince me. Can we get to the good parts yet?
When does spoiler alert! People like Marvel movies and Marvel action.
When does Wyatt Russell come in? That's what I want to know.
Oh, we're going to get to him. Don't worry. And, this series, as we've seen in the trailers and you're describing, there does seem to be a lot more action here. So I guess we should expect this to be a little bit more of a return to form of sorts for Marvel and what fans expect.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say if you've been missing out on summer blockbuster movie season, this is definitely an event series you're going to want to check out. And the show also follows a similar cadence to what people can kind of expect from a Marvel movie. It sort of begins with a fairly large action sequence. It kind of segues into a lot of setup. And then the end of the first episode has sort of one of those Marvel surprises that'll set up the story moving forward.
Darren has brought up Wyatt Russell. Of course, I want to mention, of course, Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie here, but there are other stars here. We're talking Daniel Bruhl, Emily Van Camp, Wyatt Russell. It's the only one that Darren wants to know about. So they're all there returning to the MCU, but I do want to talk about another person, semi-newcomer Aaron Kellyman. What do we know about Aaron's character? Is this, possible villain?
Well, yeah, definite villain, but I think what's interesting is, the idea that this show sort of plays with that definition. The showrunner and the lead writer seem to be inspired about the questions of identity and, villains aren't 100% evil all the time. All heroes aren't 100% good all the time. What does that sort of mean? And it definitely ties into, Sam and Bucky's own questions about identity. They've their identities have been defined in the Marvel movies pertaining to Captain America. And so who are these guys now without that character in the mix.
Sebastian and Anthony had such a great time, like when they were doing press rounds promoting the Avengers movies, and I feel like, you know, this movie, they've said a lot of, or this series, a lot of the reason it exists is because everyone got to see them having so much fun. So how much like buddy comedy element should we expect here?
I mean, there's a fair amount of it. It was probably like half buddy comedy, half like serious questions about identity and trauma and all that great jazz we expect from Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I'm very excited for it. I know a lot of other people are, so we will see how that all plays out starting this weekend. All right, you guys, we need to take a quick break, but we'll be back in a blip, or at least half of us will. Darren. Welcome back. In 2017, Justice League was supposed to build on Wonder Woman's success and ensure an endless future for the DCEU. However, after Zack Snyder left the project early, Warner Brothers hired Joss Whedon to try and lighten up their gloomy band of bizarro Avengers. Long story short, the resulting film upset fans and critics alike and sparked cries on social media to hashtag release the Snyder Cut, the epic alternate version only rumored to exist. Well, fast forward 4 years and Snyder's original vision has been improbably resurrected, just like Clark Kent during the events of 2017's and now 2021's Justice League. Thanks to another round of reshoots and 2 hours of additional footage, the Snyder Cut is now streaming on HBO Max. But is there a dark side to total creative control? Darren, you just reviewed Justice League for us. Is it flashier and baddier and more wonderful than before? Or is it just more?
Well, Gerrad, it's not so super, man. I'm sorry to say. This new Justice League, it is 4 hours long. It is very extreme. Zack Snyder is kind of a director who is known for visual extremity. To me, the best parts of it are kind of in the early going, when every single scene that in the theatrical version was maybe 30 seconds lasts for 5 minutes. If you felt like there were not enough scenes of Jason Momoa taking his shirt off in majestic slow motion, there's a lot more of that here. The issue with it remains that the story is dumb, and the main villain, Steppenwolf, is one of the worst villains in the history of movies. If you have 1 hour that's kind of fun and over the top and 3 hours that are almost unwatchable, it's difficult to say that this was a thing that had to happen.
So let's elaborate on some more of those updates, some of the biggest ones. They spent so much money on reshoots and CGI. Snyder, it feels like he must have been doing a lot more than just weeding out Joss Whedon's jokes from this cut, right?
The amazing thing is that the assumption was always that all the jokes in the theatrical version were from Joss Whedon, because Zack Snyder is not someone who you think of going hand in hand with comedy. Not necessarily the case. There were a few scenes in Zack Snyder's Justice League I was surprised stayed in there. Batman saying, "I'm rich," which felt like a Whedon line. It turns out was a Zack Snyder line. Now we know who to blame, I guess. So I guess in that sense, this cut is helpful. But, you know, there was a budget given for finalizing this version of the movie. Steppenwolf, the evil alien, he looks a lot different. I don't think he looks much better necessarily. I think that the idea that what he needed was a different outfit is pretty telling in terms of the fixes involved in this edition of the film. But, you know, to me, it all just does kind of come back around to the fact that, you know, even if some of the individual actors are having fun in their roles, obviously these are people we've already seen go off and do other spin-offs. There's just not really a sense that this story was the way to get the Justice League together.
Gotcha. All right, lastly here quickly, how's Gerrad Leto?
Oh, Gerrad, I don't know. I mean, listen, we're all fans of the things that we enjoy. People who like Zack Snyder, people who like Justice League, you know, I don't necessarily agree with them, but I understand them. I do not understand people who like Gerrad Leto's Joker, and his scene in this movie is one of the worst things I have ever seen.
Oh, all right. Well, before we go to break, there has already been a lot of online chatter about our segment on Justice League that we just shot just now. Apparently the fans really want to see more, and they're demanding that we re-release the segment the way it was originally intended. So in honor of Justice League, our conversation about Justice League will be getting its very own director's cut. I mean, can't you guys just hear the advance ticket sales going up right now? And apparently there's a trailer.
Darren, I think you're muted.
Darren, you're muted.
Darren, bottom left, man, the mute button. God, we've been doing this for a year.
You guys, it's saying my internet is unstable. Is that a thing?
There's only a minute left on this Zoom.
Gerrad, my mom's name is Martha too.
You've been so cold lately.
I think he's frozen. There's always room to talk about Supernatural.
So, thanks, Jared Leto, for ruining another film.
Oh my god, no spoilers, please.
You guys, I don't know, I've never had a mustache.
No, Jared, that's too many puns. She won't hold.
3 words. What to watch. Oh boy, I cannot wait for that. All right, our special super themed episode continues next with Superstore. Stay tuned. Welcome back to What to Watch. For the past 5.5 years, NBC Superstore has been our one-stop shop for one of the best workplace sitcoms of the past decade. But on March 25th, Cloud9 will be closing down for good, bringing an end to the stories of Jonah, Amy, Glenn, Dina, and of course, mine and Sam's favorite, Sandra. When the season started, we did not know that it was going to be its last. They sprung this news on us halfway through, but here we are. So what storylines do you want to see wrapped up by the end?
Man, it is hard because it is such a big cast. Like I want to see everyone in that final episode. I want one final chaotic group meeting and all the things that happen there. I think the biggest question marks are, one, Jonah and Amy. Come on, America's coming back. This season has also brought up the question of, will this store survive? Recent episodes have been about all of the terrible things that have happened there for comedic purposes. Makes great TV, makes for a terrible store. So is corporate going to shut it down? That's now one of my biggest questions is, will the store survive? What's everyone going to go off and do?
I didn't think about that.
I know. I mean, that would be kind of a bummer, but maybe if they find a way to give them all other... I don't know. Maybe that's terrible. This is why I'm not in the writer's room.
I think fans, us included, we have a little bit of comfort in the fact that NBC has announced they're developing a spinoff with Cheyenne and Bo's characters, still in development, not greenlit. But what can we not necessarily expect from it, but what do you hope from it? I'm picturing a show that's maybe in the vein of My Name is Earl with these two. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say a Cheyenne and Bo spinoff does not excite me. Just those words doesn't necessarily don't excite me. All I could hope from it is that it will keep me in this world and therefore seeing some of these characters. If they're neighbors with Sandra, I'm in.
Can I pitch you on my Sandra and Justine buddy comedy? Because
I'm sold.
We need more Justine. That's what I'm, I get you guys are all kind of like Dina and Garrett and Jonah and Amy, but Justine and anyone is what I'm focused on.
I'm curious what you guys think, because this is a show that I feel like friends will text me and be like, why didn't you tell me about Superstore before I started watching it in quarantine? I'm like, I'm pretty sure I told you about it. I'm wondering if you guys think this is a case of a show never having the true breakthrough that it deserved, or is there something kind of great about it that it has a bit of a cult audience thing going on now?
I do think Superstore has a devoted audience, but I also think it never really broke through, if that makes sense. The people who watch it love it. I feel like I'm talking about Friday Night Lights or something, but the people who watch it love it. You only don't love it if you haven't seen it. That's like a Kyle Chandler quote. Anyway, I don't think it has a cult following just yet. I think it could still get there. I do think a lot of people have been discovering it in quarantine. Yeah. I think sadly it's a beloved comedy, but it's not beloved by the number of people it deserves to be beloved by.
Yeah, echoing what Sam was saying, I do think it is like going to become an archive sensation in the same way that Friday Night Lights just lived and breathed so much beyond its initial viewership when it was still on. And even kind of maybe on the level of something like The Office. I just think that Superstore is one of those shows where anyone who has worked in any kind of customer-facing service capacity, whether you've worked there or just experienced it or anything, like it really resonates, and the characters are so incredibly well-drawn, actors just so incredible across the board. So this feels like maybe it's an example of a show that as it's ending, it's just really kind of the beginning of it being discovered in some ways. That's kind of my hopeful framework. And then the Justine spinoff will really launch. Like that's going to be like the most successful NCIS LA level rating hit of the next 10 years.
Going for those big numbers. Yeah, and I still think it's a shame that none of them have, that they've never been nominated for Emmys, because they're so good. Or even the SAG Ensemble Award. We should try to make that happen somehow. What, you don't think that's true? This comedy ensemble, they're great.
It should. I just love the way that you kind of threw that in. Like, come on, like even the SAG Ensemble Prize, it should win all the awards, to be clear.
Yeah, no, I don't mean it as a consolation. Like, that's a true, like, they are an ensemble if ever there was one on TV right now. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, Lilly Singh and I are going to get over Superstore ending by taking an exit interview with some of TV's best bosses. Stay tuned. Welcome back to What to Watch. Joining me now is comedian, boss, and host of A Little Late with Lilly Singh, which is a GLAAD Media Award nominee for Outstanding Variety or Talk Show Episode, the one and only Lilly Singh. How are you?
Good. What an intro. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Well, of course. We're so happy to have you here. You, of course, have a special week coming up on your show. I want to talk about that in just a minute, but it is kind of a perfect segue for what we are talking about here, because you're also an author of the book, How to Be a Boss, a guide to conquering life. So I got to get your thoughts here. We've already mentioned on the show that your fellow NBC series, Superstore, is ending next week. I'm very sad about it. And in honor of one of our favorite workplace sitcoms and the return of Boss, Amy, played by America Ferrera, we thought we'd take a look back and rank some of our favorite bosses from TV history. You down?
Sure, let's do it. Some of mine are newer. Is that cool?
Totally fine. Some of mine are obscure, so it's totally cool. A boss, whatever your interpretation is. I'll tell you my number 3. I'll get things started with mob boss Tony Soprano. I mean,
that's good.
He's the pinnacle to me of mob bosses. You just can't get much better than James Gandolfini. Who's your number 3 boss?
My number 3 is Elle Fanning from The Great. Now, I mean, just complete boss. Such an epic performance from the actor, but the character itself is just epic. She runs stuff. She is fearless. She is just so complex, and I love that character.
Huzzah to that.
Huzzah!
All right. Number 2 for me, because I love desserts so stupidly much, I'm going to go with Buddy Valastro, the cake boss.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Poor guy, he hurt his hand. I hope he's doing better.
My number 2 is I like bosses of all ages. So Millie Bobby Brown, Stranger Things. I feel like you have superpowers, you're saving the world. What more could a boss be doing, you know?
Oh, God, I love that show so much. And I'm from Indiana, so we have monsters there of a different kind. That's why I say that. Okay, let's get into our number 1. There's a drum roll somewhere. I am going with 30 Rock's Liz Lemon, because who is better than Tina Fey? She is just like the ultimate boss. I would love to work for Liz Lemon. She's so much fun. I don't have enough time to talk about why I love her so much. Who is your number 1, Lilly?
So my number 1 is going to be a performance that blew me away. Of course, it is from The Queen's Gambit. I'm talking about Anya Taylor-Joy, who I just I am dead. I had no idea what to expect. I started watching and I was like, I can't stop watching this. I have to watch every episode. And her performance is so incredible. Her character is so epic and something we've not seen before.
That show is as addictive as the pain pills she's taking. Really, it's
yes,
like
100%.
Okay, all right, so I want to get into your show. You're in your second season. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
But you have a very important week coming up. It is Boss Week on A Little Late. So do tell us about that and why you wanted to do that for an entire week.
Yeah, when I started season 2 of my show, I wanted to make it a point to not only interview, the famouses and the people who walk the red carpets. That's cool and fun, but I also wanted to have conversations with people who are making a change in the world, who have an impact. And so I wanted to talk to bosses for a full week where I could dive into the nitty-gritty of conversations. So, of course you can ask people, what is it like to be in this movie or have this project? But I want to know how some of these people were created. When did you fail? How did you get past that? What are qualities that you had to learn in order to succeed? I wanted to literally swim in people's brains who are the biggest bosses in the world and share it with my audience, because I feel like, especially my generation, we eat that up. We want that information. And I feel like on late night shows, you don't always get to dive deeply like that. And I want to for Boss Week. So it's all themed around female bosses, interviewing them, all of our sketches, everything is around being a boss.
I love that. Can you tell us anyone who's on?
I'll save some surprises, but I'll give you.
Sure.
Boss Week is being kicked off by none other than Melinda Gates. So, yeah, it's an exciting week, and I'm excited about it. Yeah.
The number one, she's fantastic, and what they're doing with their foundation is amazing. That's the kind of stuff I am all about, that kind of programming and interviews, connecting on a different level with people.
Yes.
I love what you're doing.
Well, I'm the same way.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lilly, for talking TV bosses with me. Because, of course, Lilly, it takes one to know one. A Little Late with Lilly Singh airs weeknights on NBC. Thanks, Lilly.
Thank you so much.
Well, that is our show for today. Thanks to my guests, Samantha Highfill, Darren Franich, and Nick Romano, and, of course, Lilly Singh. We will see all of you next week on What to Watch.